you guys have questions for Anton, go ahead and raise your hand digitally so we can see you and call on you to unmute yourself. And while we're waiting for people to ask questions, Anton, what size deals do you finance? And is
You,
it just multifamily only?
it's not just multifamily. It's just that multifamily is probably our largest expertise. We are 70% to 80% of what we do is multifamily. And we have been operating in that space for so long as investors, as well as on the financing side, that we virtually can do this in our sleep. It's like we think and talk about multifamily within our own family, with friends, with our business partners all the time, right? When it comes to other commercial real estate, we do that too, but it's not that constant part of the discussion as multifamily is. And I would say the reason for that probably also is that a large portion of syndication deals happen to be in the multifamily space, right? Yes, there are some operators that are very successful in the self-storage, which, by the way, is from an underwriting perspective still pretty similar to multifamily. Obviously, mobile home parks, RV parks, and then some also do retail, some do offices, some do industrial. But overall, as a percentage of the overall syndication volume, multifamily takes the majority of the pie in the syndication space. So it's probably, I would say that 70-80% is reflective of where all the syndicators are active in real estate.
Gotcha. Okay, Jeff, go ahead.
Hey, Anton. My quick question was, what are you seeing the most amount of deals getting done? I know office has been toxic for a lot of lenders, and I know that other classes, what class of real estate are you seeing most likely be financed, like mixed use, or what's the appetite in the marketplace right now?
I mean, the appetite is really there for everything except for obviously office are still very hard to do just because there is such an overhang of space. Particularly older office buildings are in a very tough position. But other than that, smaller office buildings in suburban markets that cater more to smaller businesses, they still are being financed and there is financing readily available. Retail, when it comes to large malls, we haven't been involved in any of those. They are definitely tricky. But when it comes to neighborhood retail, that's on fire. And there is no problem to get financing for those. Industrial flex space financing is not really a big issue there. And obviously, multifamily, it's readily available. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it's more driven by sponsor quality, but there is a lot of liquidity in the marketplace for commercial real estate in general. It's just that there are some pockets, obviously, particularly very large office buildings, urban office buildings that are just old, outdated. They are the real problem. And then I would say virtually none of the syndicators are active in that space, but I would say some of the very large industrial spaces, they also have seen some issues if they are not in a strategic location. Those that are in strategic locations, in transportation hubs, they are doing extremely well. So it's really more market specific there. Hospitality is also very market specific, but the financing is actually still pretty strong there too.
So all the hotels that you see being, I see dozens of those happening, getting foreclosed on. Are you seeing hotels being strained?
Yeah, so hotels are a very unique animal, and I have had quite a lot of experience with hotels. You always go through waves, and when we look at the luxury and the true five-star spaces, they do extremely well. When it comes to the limited service hotels, the challenge is not really that the travel has come down that significantly. It's just the operating cost for a lot of them is just very high. And at the same time, with hotels, one of the core problems is that you have the PIPs, which stands for Property Improvement Plans, which very often essentially forces an owner to spend millions more to bring it up to the standard as what the flag requires them to spend on or sell it. And the new buyer has to spend that money, which means that the value is not nearly where it needs to be. And very often that's why they walk away from the property. Right. It's the hotel space is extremely capital intensive, and if you do not have the capital, then very often you run out of money. But the players that really know how to operate them, they do extremely well.
Awesome, Jeff. Vanessa, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Super briefly, first, we met in Colombia earlier this year, so super happy to see you again. And super grateful for everything that you shared today. I really admire your journey. So, my question is I would love to hear maybe your recommendations on either writers or specific books that have helped you with like your success, either like in life in general or business slash entrepreneurship overall. Because I really love books and I think we can learn a lot. So I would love to hear your recommendations.
Yeah, there are so many books. Obviously, I do not have to mention Robert Kiyosaki's book for what every syndicator probably has read by now.
Yeah.
But I would say one book that I would recommend to read now, because it's really a sign of the times and really also gives you food for thought, is a book that was written by Ray Dalio, the hedge fund manager. I do not know the exact title, would have to look it up, but it's really the rise and falls of empires and nations. And he looks back at for hundreds of years and essentially really has studied how every society and empire goes through the same cycle, whether it's 70 years or 100 years, and it is particularly where we are as a country and as a world. I would say it's worthwhile to think through this, particularly also when we consider then the other aspect of how AI will impact our lives on top of that. So I think we are in a very interesting time today, and I think those that are really studying history and are using that knowledge, as well as look forward how our world is going to look like in 5 years from now, thanks to AI and the changes that are being made, those are the winners. And those that are missing it out, I think will have a big wake up call.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank you so
Cindy,
much.
for posting it. Yeah. And
Yeah, it's definitely a really good book. It's opened my mind out to how history has shown itself. Yeah, whenever we are in a time when we see a nation that is like strong, we would think it'll be superpowers for forever. But as history has shown us, that's never true. Yeah, every superpower has gone down. So
yeah, and it's not really political, right? It doesn't matter on what side
Yeah.
you are, and it doesn't even matter whether it's a democracy, whether it's
Yeah.
any type of political form, right? Even if it was a royal empire, it doesn't matter. Societies always go through these cycles, right? And everyone essentially rises until they fall.
All right, Roman, go ahead.
Hello, Anton.
Hey, Roman.
Nice to see you as usually in life
Yeah.
and on internet. Quick question, maybe you don't. I'm talking about different asset type as RV parks, and if you do any financials on RV park, or maybe you can share some information what the best way of doing this and what the current status of RV park financing.
Yeah, we have done a couple of RV parks in the past. We haven't done any recently. I would say the requests only have popped up more and more. It seems that a lot of syndicators now get a taste for RV parks. So I think one needs to make distinctions between the various RV parks, right? Because when we talk about these parks, there are very distinct differences, right? So obviously you have the ones that are the resort parks that are like little resorts. And then you have those that are more transient, not necessarily resorts, but primarily maybe where people stay for a few days to maybe a week. And then you have those that are primarily meant for long-term stays, including some permanent residents. From what we have seen is that certainly when it comes to the large parks, they are the easiest to finance, as long as obviously the price is right, because lenders feel comfortable with the model. When it comes to the workforce parks, where let's say next to oil and gas fields and all that, they tend to also do pretty well from a reception with lenders. Where we see the biggest challenge really is with parks that are primarily meant to just to house long-term residents, like year-long residents or longer, where we have seen the biggest challenge from a lending side, where lenders get comfortable with it.
So basically, what you're saying, you have to have down payment before you can start doing financing. That's the distinguished difference, right?
Yeah, down payment you need for all of them, right?
No, if you're talking about residential, you can come up with the remaining balance at the day of closing, whereas on RV parks, from what I'm understanding, you have to have it upfront.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks. Difference, by the way.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
All right. I don't see anyone else raising their hand. So we're going to wrap up this part of our show. And then, Anton, if you're still available, you can join us in smaller breakout sessions that we're
Sure,
about to
I will
do.
hang around.
Yeah. Looks like, okay, Tanya, you have one last question?
I just had a question in terms of, you mentioned New York and where you're working. Your fund, is it just based on debt or equity? And what was your experience? Because I'm doing the same in terms of I want to do a social impact private equity fund in New York.
Yeah, so we are 95% of what we do is debt brokering. So we are essentially just arranging financing and finding the right lender, matching the lender with matching the right sponsor and property with the best lender, and then help closing that deal. So that is what the majority of our activities are. Then we have a small fund where we deploy money on a case by case basis. But this, I would say, you should treat that as the hard money for commercial real estate. So it's actually above the bridge loan cost. So it's really for special situations where things need to be done very quickly. It's very costly, but it allows to fix a deal or close a deal very fast. So that's really the only time when we are active with our own resources, right? So other than that, we do not operate any fund, but we just go to different parties for whatever it is. Also, we are not arranging equity at all. We introduce pref equity, right? So if we do the senior debt, then as part of that, we introduce all the pref equity players as needed. But in order to raise equity, for a third party, you really need to be licensed for that. And we do not have a securities license, so that's why we don't do that. So that's essentially it.
Okay. Thank you, Anton.
Tanya. All right, everyone, let's turn on your cameras. We're going to take a group picture with Anton real quick. Just my stuff here. All right. Everybody turn on your camera. Yes. Anton, one thing I forgot to mention. You look good. Looks like you must have lost a lot of weight in the last, I don't know, few months since I've last seen you. I'm not sure how long it's been. But,
yeah, so I'm down around 25.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely see it for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, we flex our group picture on the show, Anton. All right. Okay, you guys ready? All right. 3, 2, 1. Yay.